Thank you.
We will now start with the questioning portion of the evening. As a reminder, each candidate has 1 minute to answer. I'm going to try and randomize this as best I can, so we don't have the next person piggybacking on the previous person's answer. And for the first question, I'll be asking Mary. Mary, describe the role of the town board should have in the town's economic development.
The town's economic development is a very interesting case in Erie County. We have the Erie County Industrial Development Agency that covers all of the towns that do not have their own economic development agency of their own. And there are 5 of those. Grand Island doesn't have one, and we're not going to get one because the state is not going to allow us to have any more economic development agencies in the state. So I believe our role as a town, or my role as a supervisor and as a town board member, would be to handle people as they come into town hall seeking information and to get them to the places where they need to go, be it the engineer's office, the zoning office, the assessor, whatever situation they present, and to try to help them get the help that they need. Eventually, if they're interested in economic development agency money, to give them the card of Steve Waters, who is the chairman of that agency. But we will never have our own economic development agency for the state.
Thank you, Mary. The next question will go to Nathan. Nathan, what will you do as supervisor to influence the town board and its members to be pro-small business?
If you walk around Grand Island, a lot of small businesses are struggling. That's just a fact. And if you don't believe me, go visit your local restaurant, your local hair salon, or whatever else. I'm in the business community. In the business community, everyone I deal with outside of my company is my client. I will look at all the small businesses on Grand Island as my client. With a client, you just don't say, hey, here's a card, go over here, figure this out, or we'll get it done. You say, listen, I will do everything in my power to maintain our relationship, to make sure you're successful, and that you feel that I'm on your side. So as supervisor, I will reach out to small business in the island, and I will make sure they know they have a friend in town hall. Thanks.
The next question is for you. Name one thing you believe should be cut or modified within the town's budget to save taxpayer money.
The town budget is the people who are following along the tax cap. No, we are trying to keep within the 2% mandated tax cap, not sales tax, just tax cap. And it's a huge challenge to do that. I don't know that there's exactly one particular thing that I can say right now that deserves to be cut or that should be cut right now. We're in the budget process right now. We had meetings today with 3 different departments. People are asking for various things, and we're doing our best to try to manage their requests. One thing that we will be doing very shortly is working with the City of Tonawanda and the Town of Tonawanda on our assessor services, and I believe that is probably the best way that our town will move forward, by combining where we can with other municipalities and trying to consolidate within our own town and trying to cut costs that way by having people do more with less and to try to deliver the best public service that we can.
Nathan, back to you. I'm taking several questions. There's many questions on development here, so I'm going to combine a couple of these questions. The first one is with regards to the development of Whitehaven and East River. And would you please state your position on that development with regards to its current zoning?
Yes. First of all, that development, thankful to all the people who are in that area for fighting that development for 2 years to make sure we don't have some god-awful mess right in one of our prime communities on Grand Island. The people of that area, the River Oaks community, got up and they said, we're not going to tolerate this. We don't want a road in our backyard. I know one gentleman, there's a road in his front yard, and there's going to be a road in his backyard with the development. Now, people should have the right to develop their land according to the master plan, whatever plan. But what's happening here in Grand Island is this issue has been batted back and forth for over 2 years to the planning board. Now they think they have a law. Let me tell you, be careful. If this doesn't get resolved before November 3rd, it may never get resolved unless I'm elected. But the people of the River Oaks community, I will protect you, and I will make sure it's not something you cannot tolerate in your backyard, something you're proud of and makes our community stronger.
Another development question, and I had multiple questions on the same subject. Please explain the policy on vacation homes and give us your opinion on whether or not it was a good decision or a bad decision.
The current law that we just passed regarding vacation homes was to reinforce the current code on Grand Island that says they are not, that you can't do short-term rentals. The state allows rentals of 30 days or more. That was the Grand Island code. We were enforcing the code. We were sued by residents who didn't think that that was the interpretation of the code, and it went to a judge. The judge ruled in favor of the residents who sued us, and it is under appeal. So the town board, in the meantime, passed a law to reinforce our law in the areas where the judge pointed out that we were deficient. The goal here is to be able to have a conversation about whether or not we would like short-term rentals on Grand Island after there's nobody who would be grandfathered in if we had that discussion now. So the purpose of that law is to put that discussion to a future time when we can have the discussion, and if the answer is yes, then we can figure out how to manage it. If the answer is no, then it will be put to bed. But to not do that when there are people who are currently doing it and could be grandfathered in.
Thank you, Marie. Another development question for Nathan. And again, multiple questions on the same subject, so I'll paraphrase. The Dunlop building and that land surrounding the Dunlop building have been eyesore for a long time. It's recently been in the news that it may be developed. What is your position on development of that land? And how, as an elected official, will you facilitate that development?
We all want that space developed, correct? It's been empty for 20 some odd years. It's been a death trap. Thank God no kid got killed in there with all the drugs and nonsense that's been going on for all those years. This morning, or actually this afternoon, I had coffee with the owner of that land. The story we heard in the news, the story we heard from some of the people that stand here is that it's all a go. Everything's good. The story I heard this afternoon from the gentleman was quite different. You know Paul Harvey, now you know the rest of the story. He is frustrated. And he told me, listen, if we don't get a deal worked out, that thing will sit there for the next 20 years. That's straight from the mouth. I got a picture, selfies. I got a selfie of me and J.S. Patel, the owner, right on my phone right now. I will get that done. Mike said he's a fixer. I believe him, but I'm a deal maker. I'll get a deal done. I'll get that thing open. I guarantee it. Because if it doesn't get done in the next 30 days, I'm not sure it will ever get done. Thanks.
Mary, what is your vision for development on Grand Island, especially Grand Island Boulevard? So let's focus on Grand Island Boulevard, because there's a lot of development questions here.
As far as Grand Island Boulevard, you may be familiar with the design standards that have been passed. The fact that in the last couple of years, the town board has changed the zoning on Grand Island Boulevard to be North, Central, and South Business District, to more flexible, so that it no longer matters if a person owns a particular lot that was originally segregated for residential only or for commercial only. I believe that was a huge step forward in terms of allowing development to happen on Grand Island Boulevard in the way that the comprehensive master plan suggested it should. That the density should be along Grand Island Boulevard, where the new 32-unit apartment complex just went up, where the new Heron Point apartment complex is scheduled. NOCO's new 3 times as large stores, its old store is a good example, Key Bank is a good example, and Walgreens is a good example of what resulted from the design standards. That's the vision that the town has decided on, and that's the vision that I will support.
Thank you, Mary. Nathan, another development question? There's a lack of market rate senior housing on Grand Island. What would you do to attract market rate senior housing?
Well, I think, frankly, I'm not aware there's a lack of housing for seniors on Grand Island. If there is, it's something that can easily settle. But what we do not want is an influx of high-density apartments across Grand Island. This is a mistake community after community across America has made. You show me one place that has built lots of high-density apartments that looks good in 5 years. It doesn't happen. A few good condos, great. Even a few nice apartments, fine. We probably need some nice apartments on Grand Island. What's happening right now is very scary. You think of a frog in a pot that's boiling. If it boils over time, it will not know it's going to die, and it will die. The nature of Grand Island is slowly changing right now. Look around. Look at all the spaces, all the green spaces that are being targeted for development. They say that's a good thing. In principle, they think it's a good thing because it raises the tax rate. It doesn't raise the tax rate. Every resident that comes to Grand Island to live takes more in services. What we need is business. We need small business to grow and to flourish on this island, and I will help that happen.
Mary, now that we can view the Gus Macker tournament in the rearview mirror, after all the controversy leading up to it, in hindsight, what do you think of the tournament, and would you agree to host it again?
It wouldn't be up to me alone to agree to host it again, but it's certainly a discussion that the town board will have. The event's promoter is in dealings with Gus Macker. They have rules that the town isn't even aware of that they have to deal with. If it comes back to us, I am sure we will have that discussion. One thing we probably won't do is have it at the last Saturday of August. As most of you know, that was a very challenging day because the state police were at Syracuse at the fair, and the Erie County Sheriffs were at the stadium for a Bills game. And those are our 2 main law enforcement agencies on Grand Island. We required that the promoter come up with a security plan. He did. It came off beautifully. He had enough security, but it was also very expensive. So I'm not exactly sure where in Gus Macker and McGowan Productions a future Gus Macker is. But as far as our town stepping up to the plate and hosting a wonderful event, that happened, and I was extremely proud of the way our town came through.
Thank you, Mary. Last supervisor question for Nathan, and then I'm going to circle back on the questions we've already asked so that each of you have an opportunity to answer the question that you haven't answered yet. I'm going to combine these 2 questions because they both have to do with experience. So please explain your experience developing capital projects, working on long-range plans, developing budgets, and implementing cost savings. Nathan?
I work for the biggest company, or one of the biggest companies in Western New York. I manage projects on a daily basis worth hundreds of millions of dollars. As an attorney overseas, I work for Samsung Electronics. Just to put Samsung's scale into perspective, it's a $500 billion company. Samsung makes everything. They make cars. They make trains and subways and everything else. I was the senior legal advisor of Samsung Electronics. I work with Google. I work with Intel. I work with Oracle. I've been to these places. I've been to Facebook. I have managed people on a daily basis, and I understand business. I have also done advocacy at every level of government. Currently, I'm working on advocacy efforts in Albany, in DC, and at a local level in municipalities across New York State. I'm a Fulbright Scholar. I studied constitutional law in the Constitutional Court of Korea. I don't want to sound too cocky, But frankly, I think I'm one of the most experienced supervising tenants this town's ever had. And I think I will take Grand Island to a new level. This is a great and special place. I've seen some of the great and special places in the world, and we are just scratching the surface. Thank you.
Mary, we're going to circle back now on some of the questions we've already covered. So back to you with, what will you do as supervisor to influence the town board and its members to be pro-small business?
I believe that right now, the town is very pro-small business, and we have many examples to prove it, and I believe that that will continue. When people come into town hall and wish to start a business, we talk to them, we direct them, as I told you before, to the appropriate place in town hall if it's there, or to the appropriate place if it's not in town hall, where they might go to learn more about how they could get their questions answered or how they can get their business off the ground. It is very important that a town our size understand that it is not the government's responsibility to take control of the businesses. I've had people suggest that we buy the plaza. That is not what I envision town government to do. There are certain ebbs and flows. There are always going to be businesses that fail. We do our best to make sure that anything that the town has connection with, that those businesses succeed. But ultimately, we live in a capitalistic society, and we need to let the capital system work.
Thank you, Mary. Nathan, describe the role the town board should have in the town's economic development.
Well, we just heard that we live in a capitalistic society and the market will solve all the problems. I believe in markets more than anyone. I love markets. I think markets do solve a lot of problems. But people matter too. We need to be seeking out business. Every community around us right now is competing for business. We're losing business. And we're not losing business in San Francisco. We're not losing business in Los Angeles. We're losing business to Wheatfield. We are losing business to North Tonawanda. I will seek out business that meets the needs of Grand Island, and I will be an active advocate for Grand Island. This used to be the center point for business, the developing business of Western New York. I think we can revitalize that ghost town of an industrial park. I know we can. I will write letters, I'll be going to meet people, and I'll be shaking hands and saying, let me sell you on Grand Island.
Mary, back to you. What is your position regarding the development of the open acreage at Whitehaven East River?
At Whitehaven and East River, there's a property owner who had many proposals, and I believe very strongly in our planning board and our town board process. Our town has decided that the planning board will not make the ultimate decision. They will be an advisory board. They advise the town board, and the town board has to make the ultimate decision about development. There were many preliminary proposals for the land at Whitehaven near East River. It was zoned R2. There's also a B1 parcel, which is our most intense business zoning, that is right on the corner of East River and Whitehaven Road. It was a very thorny issue. There were several plans that didn't make it to the final submission to the town. The one that was submitted to the town was denied because it did not have enough green space, wasn't creative enough with the layout, and we thought that the town, or that the developer could do better. So I would, now we're doing this rezoning for R2, I'm not sure how that's gonna go, but right now, that parcel remains R2 with a B1 on the corner, and I will continue to support the master plan.
Thank you. Nathan, give an example of one thing you would cut or reduce or modify within the town budget to save taxpayer money.
Legal fees. I think. How many of you out here were in legal fights with the town itself? I mean, this has to stop. I've talked to people who had Hodgson Russ show up at their door with letters. Do you know who Hodgson Russ is?
Yeah.
That's the firm my company uses. That's one of the top firms in Buffalo. That's an expensive firm. Now they're going to say, oh, we had a cap for this or that. But listen, having a guy like me who's not afraid of legalese, who's not afraid of getting in the weeds, That alone is going to save money. Do you know how many executive sessions we have? That alone is going to bring transparency. That is a big thing that I'm going to target. We need to control fees. And I'll start with legal fees because I'm comfortable with lawyers and I'm comfortable telling lawyers, get out of my office.
Mary, as supervisor of the town, how would you facilitate the development of the Dunlop building in the Lansing region?
That building has been a challenge for 20 years. I visited that building when it was still in pristine shape in about 1995 or 96, and at that point, we had John LaFalce money, and it was going to be a senior center. And we were talking, or senior housing, and we were talking about bringing our senior center there. Right now, the town board has already transferred the grant that the town went out on a limb from the Empire State Development for $1 million for Mr. Metz, and just this summer transferred that grant money to Mr. Patel. So that has already occurred. That is one of the preliminary steps that has to happen for that building. I will continue to support it in any way that we can. We have worked, and Gary Rush is leading the charge on that. We have worked with them whenever they have come in, whenever they have asked, we've approached them to ask how things are going. At times when you have a developer, they have their own schedule and they have to do things on their own time. But we have worked very hard with them and we will continue to do so. Erie County has to approve their septic system, and I believe that is the next step in that process. We're very hopeful.
Thank you, Mary. Back to Nathan for the issue of vacation homes. Since the town government has already approved the zoning for vacation homes, what is your opinion of vacation homes policy for the town?
Well, first of all, preliminary steps. Supervisor Cook was in office in 1995. What hope do we have that that place is ever going to get open? I have to say, that Dunlop building, it's really frustrating. If I hear this conversation, I'm very frustrated. On the vacation homes, listen, I don't want anything to be next to your house that you hate. No one wants to barn next to their house. I keep going back to my business experience. In business, one of the most important words is predictability. People need to have predictable answers about what's going to be next door and what's going to be down the street and everything else. We can control this issue. The problem is, these vacation homeowners go ahead and build these things long ago. They put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. They relied on that answer. They sued. They won in court. Now we made a law saying it's non-conforming use. What do you think is going to happen when it comes time to close those homes because of so-called non-conforming use? You think those homeowners are going to close? There's going to be more lawsuits. This is knee-jerk legislation, like the SAFE Act or every other act you hate. We need to go about this the right way, get the input of the citizens, and do this the correct way.
Thank you. Mary, there is a lack of market rate senior housing in Grand Island. What would you do to attract market rate senior housing?
One of the things that's going on right now is that for that market, our current Elderwood Healthcare Facility is in the very preliminary stages of looking at possibly offering some of that. We've discussed this with all the developers who have come in. Mr. Mazur, who just did the 32-unit apartments on Rayon Boulevard, was not interested in making his senior housing. There are some very strict rules regarding what you call it and how you make sure that only seniors use it, and that is up to the developer. Anytime that we are asked, and I've been asked by many people, we talk about the fact that some of our seniors are moving off the island. Right now we have some market rate, we have a lot of income subsidized, but we do have that gap. And there are some very hopeful preliminary plans in the works right now that could provide that need. Again, the market will determine whether or not a project like that gets built on Grand Island.
Nathan, what is your vision for development of Grand Island Boulevard?
Grand Island Boulevard, we have to beautify the boulevard. There's steps we can take. There's things we can do. There is going to be no magic bullet for Grand Island Boulevard. There's nothing we can do tomorrow to say it's going to fix right now, this is going to change right now. But we can do some small things. I want to hit the front door, the back door, and the heart. We can beautify right by Town Hall even more. Little things help. Trees help. The roundabout. Listen, I've been complaining about the roundabout school election. That thing this summer looked disgusting. It looked third world. There's things we can do. We work with the garden club and other groups. Small things that don't cost taxpayers money to make it beautiful. We human beings like to be with nature. My company makes a lot of money on that. We operate Yosemite, we operate the Grand Canyon. Beautifying Grand Island will not take arbitrary aesthetic measures to force on homeowners or business owners. Little things we can do to help make it a more welcoming and beautiful place. I will not make you build a sidewalk. I will not make you, give you a marina theme, make you put a mermaid on the roof of your building. But we can do some things and we change things quick.
Mary, since you're incumbent, I'm going to change this question a little bit because we know you have this experience. But please highlight, as supervisor, your experience developing capital projects, doing long-range planning, developing budgets, and implementing cost savings.
We have a capital plan for the town of Grand Island and work very hard to make sure that as projects are finished in the borrowing and the payback, that we add projects accordingly. And we work very closely with our department heads to try to make sure that we keep that at a very steady pace and that we're not overextended one year and then little the next. And that has helped our bond ratings considerably. We have never had to go to revenue anticipation notes or tax anticipation notes, and that has kept our bond rating at a very, very good level. We work very hard with our town engineer, with the departments of water and wastewater. Since we own a wastewater plant and a water plant, we have a lot of infrastructure that has to be managed, and we are on very careful, long-range plans for both of those facilities so that they stay in good shape, so that your toilets flush and your water runs. We also have that going on in the highway department. That is a separate elected official, but the board works very closely with the highway superintendent on that infrastructure.